Mike Johnson, welcome back to T-Town. I hope all is well, man.
And everything's really good. Just as you know, been going through the season with the Birmingham Iron recently and doing some play-by-play with them and trying to keep tabs on everything that's going on with the Crimson Tide. So it's been an interesting spring so far, my friend. I hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah, man, we have. And, I got so many different things to talk about. But let's start with the Birmingham Iron, man. They've had a lot of success and getting a chance to connect with some teammates there and having a chance to call their games. Talk about what that's been like for you.
Well, it's been an incredible opportunity, first and foremost, and I got plugged in with those guys. And obviously, Joe Pendry being the general manager is a guy that you know well, a guy that I played under for 3 years at Alabama with Nick Saban. He's been an incredible resource for that football team. And I know that Joe Pendry still gets the itch to jump out on the field and coach the offensive line. He told me just the other day he has to force himself to sit up in a box during practice, so he's not out on the field coaching, but. Tim Lewis, the head coach, obviously, I was involved with the Atlanta Falcons for a number of years as, another few members of the coaching staff were with the Atlanta Falcons with me as well. And then Trent Richardson. So, obviously I blocked for him. And it's been very, very fun to watch these guys kind of become a unit, kind of become a team. They didn't have a long training camp or a long mini camp, so they're still trying to get to know each other, but it's been a lot of fun to call the games with Tom Abraham and kind of watch this league blossom. And I think it's a great product. I think for the most part, people have enjoyed it, and I'm continuing to enjoy calling the game. So it's been a lot of fun, and the Iron are a good football team.
Well, Mike, I just think it shows you that spring football will work. There's enough interest that it shows you, for one, and I think this league will continue to blossom. I think it'll continue to develop. But it just shows you that there's people more that are still hungry for football, just like you and I. We love the game of football, and certainly the people are echoing that throughout the country with the success of the Alliance.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you look at the Alliance, when you look at the recipe, and listen, not to go off on a tangent, but the Alliance knows what the Alliance is. That's the beautiful thing about this league and how it's differed from other things in the past. The Alliance knows what they are. They know what they want to be. They know they want to be a complementary league. And I think the football has spoken for itself. There's been ups and downs. There's been times where there's been a lack of offensive production. There's been a time when there's been, lulls in the game. But when you look at the new rules, they're all set in place to make it more action-packed, to make it flow smoother, to make sure all the right calls are being called on the field, and to make sure that people aren't there for 4 hours watching a football game. So, when you add the recipe in together, Ryan, and you look at what the Alliance is, and you look at the players they've been able to bring in, I think there's a bright future for it. And I think there's going to be a place and time, for this league in the spring to really, to kind of become known, to kind of become a household name as they continue to venture forward.
Mike, how stressful is it for a player going through the NFL Combine, the medical exams, the team evaluations, the interview? Looking back, how stressful is that process?
It's hard to even put into terms. It's the longest and most strenuous job interview and the biggest job interview you'll ever have in your life, no matter what you do. And, I went through the Senior Bowl, and the Senior Bowl, I feel like I was a little bit, of a step above a lot of people when it got to the Combine, because Senior Bowl is a little bit of what you're going to get at the Combine. You're going to get to meet scouts and meet general managers, and you're going to get poked and prodded a little bit. But when I got to the Combine, Ryan, and just to give you my story, I think the offensive linemen and the tight ends might have went first, maybe special teamers as well. I flew in with Colin Peak, one of my old teammates from Alabama, and we went through the Combine, and we were actually about a half day late. It was snowing in Indianapolis, so we're about a half day getting there. We land after a day of sitting in the airport. I get off the plane, and they usher us to the hotel, and they said, okay, who's on this list that needs MRI? And so I'm like, okay, well, I've had some nicks and dings. I did get 3 MRIs as soon as I got off the plane. I get back from getting MRIs probably 11 p.m. back to the hotel. I'm exhausted. And I have a scout kind of yelling at me saying, hey, where have you been? We've been looking everywhere for you. And I was like, listen, I've been in an airport all day. I've been getting poked and prodded. And it's a 4-day process just like that, where you wake up at 6 a.m., you do a drug test, you have doctors banging on you, you have meetings set up with head coaches. You go do, physical stress tests. You go get your blood pressure taken. You get your blood work done. I mean, it's a never-ending schedule from sun up to sundown of things you have to do. And just when you think you have off time, no, there's some more scouts want to meet with you. Some people want to get you on the dry erase board to draw up plays. And Now, listen, I slept like a baby for about 3 days when I got back from that scouting combine. So those guys, a lot of them don't realize what they're about to get themselves into, but it's not fun at all. But you try to take it in and try to understand how lucky and fortunate you are to be in that situation. And hopefully those guys can do that coming up.
Well, Mike, we were talking about it with Mike Detillier a couple of minutes ago. He's an NFL draft expert, about 40 years in the business, and we were talking about, he said they're always trying to ask a question because they know that the agents prepare their players for the interviews. And he said they'll ask these off-the-wall questions to try to get to them where they're not prepared for this question. Do you remember that? I mean, do you remember them trying to confuse you with some off-the-wall questions? If so, what were they? Just maybe one example.
Well, I remember this both from a social setting and from a football setting. I remember it very vividly. It's kind of interesting to talk about because there is definitely a psychological aspect where they'll ask you a question just kind of in passing, where, hey, what's your dad's name? Oh, Randy, and then but you think that's the end of the response. You think that's all you'll have to say, and then they'll say, oh, where do you get that name from? Well, what's your grandpa's name? Well, and they'll just keep digging just to see if you're the kind of guy that, is just, telling a lie or a little white lie. And, they get me down in front of a dry erase board, and I'm an offensive lineman at the time. And, obviously I've learned a lot more since those days, but, you'll drop a formation and they'll say, hey, what'd y'all call that formation at Alabama? Well, I didn't really focus on the formations that much at Alabama. So we called it strong right. Well, what did they audible to when this happened? Well, I'm not really sure. I wasn't a quarterback. I just did what they told me to do. So they would definitely listen. It's a very interesting line of questions and definitely a psychological aspect. They'd ask you, the name of your best friend and who his friends were and who does he hang out with now that you're not going to be there because you're moving and you're playing football. And they just they dig really deep into your life, man, and they just want to see what your reactions will be. And I think for the most part, it's just to see how well you'll fit in with their locker room and how well you'll be liked by the coaching staff. So I tried to be as upfront as I could, but there's definitely times when they catch you off balance, and they'll keep just kind of picking at those questions just to see what all they can get out of you.
But are they trying to get you frustrated? Is that what they're trying to do? Are they trying to stress you out where you'll make a wrong decision? Is that their purpose?
I think it's part of it. I think definitely to see how well you communicate under pressure, and that's big for an offensive lineman, right? I mean, when you're playing left guard and a middle linebacker walks up in the A gap and he's on his toes and he's about to blitz you and you have to wait on the cadence to get there, I definitely think there is some of that aspect to it. Let's see how well this guy handles answering questions under pressure. Let's throw a million different things. Let's put 10 people in this room and every single person ask him a different question from every aspect of his life and see how he responds to them. And listen, I took it upon myself to try to put my best foot forward. I remember meeting with, I think it was Brad Childress at the time and Mike Tomlin and guys like that really I enjoyed getting to know. But, listen, I was the kind of guy, Ryan, at the combine that everybody's, in sweats that they've been given and underarm sweats. I put on a pair of khakis. I put on a pair of slacks. I was like, hey, this is a job interview. So I try to put my best foot forward and make sure I respond to all the questions in an appropriate manner. But I think there's just a lot of psychological games that they're willing to play, and every scout and every general manager has a different way of going about it.
Mike, we're taking up some donations here in Tuscaloosa, and I know we can count on you for a good cause. Marquise is moving to Nashville, Tennessee, and we want to do a sponsored segment up there. Okay, this is what. Tell me if you think this will work. Okay, because we want to remind those Tennessee people how long it's been since they last beat Alabama. October the 21st, 2006, 4,511 days. We want to do a segment sponsored by somebody because if we buy advertising, they cannot refuse it. So we want them to we want Marquise to come on the air up there in Nashville and say it's been 4,512 days since the last time Tennessee beat Alabama. Are you in? Mike? Did Mike just pop out on me? Man, I was trying to see. I started trying to talk about it. All I wanted was a $20 bill, man. I wasn't asking there, but anyway. So we'll get back with Mike here in just a couple of seconds. But we would like to get that sponsored, right? I mean, we'd like to have Marquise go up to Tennessee for a couple of minutes and see exactly what that looks like. But anyway, we'll go back to score predictions following Mike Johnson coming up in a couple of seconds there. We talk about Dirk Bentley. They're coming to Tuscaloosa. We'll give away some tickets throughout this week. Win them before you could buy them. He's coming to the Amp August the 9th, 7 o'clock, so you'll win a pair today. with the South Carolina-Alabama score prediction contest, a Dreamland score prediction contest. But I'm not sure how much Mike heard me. But, Mike, what we want to do is we want to buy advertising on the new station that Marquise is going to remind those Volunteer fans how long it's been since they last beat the Crimson Tide. Can I count on you for a $20 bill for buying sponsorship up in Nashville and Marquise up at the new radio station?
Hey, not only, Ryan, and I heard you before. I don't know what happened, got disconnected, but I was trying to tell you that, my old roommate in college, Preston Dial, who I know you've had on before.
Sure.
He loves, that's his favorite thing, actually, and he lives in Nashville, and his favorite thing is reminding Tennessee fans how long it has been. I mean, it is literally his favorite thing to do. So not only am I in for 20, you can count Preston Dial in for 20 as well. I know that. Listen, I'm telling you, it's his favorite thing to do, and I'm going to get Marquise plugged in with Preston, and man, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Man. That brings a tear to my eye, and hopefully that number just continues to grow for a long time.
No doubt, and certainly we're having a little bit of fun. We hope that he goes up there. Maybe he'll get all these Alabama guys on just to kind of, aggravate those Volunteers. Mike, put him on a segment, get Preston on, and we'll just surround with Alabama players.
I mean, Mike's going to be my first option, obviously, Ryan. I mean, he's my favorite guest. I mean, I'm not just saying that because you're on air right now, buddy, because we talk on the daily, so this is my guy here.
All right. Mike, let me go to spring training here for just a couple of minutes. When you look at Kyle Flood coming in, I've heard some good things behind the scenes, some things that made me smile a couple of days ago when I was told that he's walked in with a no BS approach inside that locker room, inside those team meetings. They're allowed so many hours a week now, the individual team meetings and individual player meetings. He's already busted these guys in the chop, is my understanding, these offensive linemen, man. They are like rude awakening is what I've been told.
Well, obviously, when you're an offensive lineman, tough love is something that resonates with you, a lot. And that's what Nick Saban gave to us. And that's what Joe Pendry gave to us as well when I was there, and I think it helped us out a lot. I think it helped us to understand the urgency of the situation. I think a lot of coaches, when you try to be buddy-buddy, you don't really get the urgency across. And the guy says, well, tomorrow I'll pick it up, or you know what, next week when we get back to practice, I'll make sure I work on my hand placement. Well, when you have a guy that comes in with a no BS attitude, all of a sudden you're lighting a fire under you. All of a sudden, hey, if you don't get this done today, if you don't get this done on this rep, you're not going to be in there anymore. There's too many talented guys around you to think you're going to be in there. So I've heard a lot of the same thing. I heard a lot of the same things, obviously, at the Atlanta Falcons camp from his time there. And I've told you before, he was extremely well-respected on the Atlanta Falcons staff and in that building from people I've talked to. And he's a guy that I'm excited about. Not that I didn't love Brent Key. I thought that Brent Key was decent in his role, but I definitely think that there is part of him that climbs back into it and says, hey, listen, we've got so much talent in this building, there's no excuse for us not to be a dominant offensive line, and that's what I expect to see on the field this fall.
Mike, what's the one position that you want to get answered in the 15 days? Is it center? Is it left tackle? You've played both guards, both tackle positions. What's the position on that offensive line that you want to get an answer to in these 15 days of practice leading into A-Day?
Well, there's no doubt that it's center. And you ask any offensive lineman, it's going to be center. And it's not just because, that's a position that's tough to play, but the communication. Really, that's why you see Nick Saban do things like move Ross Piercebaker over from guard to center or move Barrett Jones from left tackle to center. It's because that is such a huge position on the offensive line. And when you're missing two or three guys from the year before, then all of a sudden it's, hey, how soon can we become a cohesive unit? How soon can we bond together? How soon can we open up lines of communication? Well, you can't do that unless you know who the starting center is going to be and who it's going to be moving forward. So I got to have that question answered sooner than later. There's enough talent at the other positions to where you don't really worry. But if you don't get a center in there that can, A, communicate, and B, really take the reins of the offensive line, then your offensive line is not going to produce at a high level. So that's what you've got to find through those 15 days of spring practice. And there's no secret about it. I know Kyle Flood and Nick Saban both understand that. That will be one of the main focuses of the entire football team for me, Ryan. And I know that they're missing a ton of talented players from last year's team, but I got to know who's going to play that center position and get it done in the middle.
Mike Johnson, I appreciate you, man. I hope you have a great week. Thank you again for making time for us. Happy 2nd and 26th day, my friend. I forgot to tell you that earlier when we brought you on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day too. Marquise, man, good luck, brother. You know you can always hit me up, man.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Mike.